Yo, check it out, this is Buckwild, and you're tuned in to Respect the Architect on OK Player. See, that's a tough question because I feel like they were all just in a row. The first one I made is different because it didn't come out instantly. They did Diamond's record, Shit Is Real. That was the very first, like, coming in the industry with that was like, I felt like I had a pass. Well, we in a time when it was all about hip hop and hip hop crews, and it's like, the reaction was amazing from people. It was amazing from my peers in my neighborhood because it's like, they felt I made it just overnight. Like we was hanging one day and it's like, this is on the radio, mix show, that's what it was. And, the introduction to other artists, that was amazing because it made them be like, yo, we need the link, we need the work, etc. And that was that. Everything was like a locomotive going crazy. The biggest what if I could say is, if I wasn't a caring person about how many records I could get on an album, and I would get 3 to 5 and just give it 100%. Sometimes I would be like, work with different artists, say like, yo, all right, we just did 3. Yo, you got more? And I'd be like, nah, let someone else work. Instead of just working. I never knew the power when you can give a person a great body of work. And even later, I got used to the same thing too. All right, I got 1, that's cool. No, I should have had 3 or 4. I shouldn't have just did 1. I would say Big Pun on Dream Shatterer. That was the hardest verse. Well, that's the first one to come to mind, I could say. Cause then I'm looking at Big with Story to Tell and how he takes the verse and it's like, it's not hardcore, but it's how he tap dances on a beat, just dancing on the kicks and snares. But for verse-wise, and then it's like, I'm thinking about Beans, and I'm like, it's kind of crazy because I would say Pun, but it's a hard question because I work with in that time, every dude who was like the top MC. I remember giving him, first let's start here. I remember, like, my brother's show has like a celebration for his birthday every year. It's the beginning of July. Everyone's in Forest. I pulled through I ain't gonna say it's rickety, but in an MPV. And I'm chilling with Show and them. Pun pulls up, he's like, yo, I finished my album, you ain't give me no beats. So I just told him, I said, yo, well, sit in the car, let me play you some beats. And I think that was like the 3rd beat, and by the time I played it for him, he was like, see, you should have gave me this. And I was like, well, take it, just record it. If it make the album, make the album. And he's like, for free? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, you gonna give me this beat for free? And I'm like, yeah, you family, why not? So he was like, oh man. So we went to the studio the next day. They called me in the morning, him and Cuban, like, yo, we gonna link up, we gonna drive to Mystic in Staten Island. And when I spoke to him, he was like, yo, I wrote the most outrageous, craziest shit to your beat. You're gonna love this shit. And Pun would punch a lot. And him doing the song, he sat on a stool with the mic in front of him and ran through all 3 verses. So you look at it, me working with other people, I'm like, okay, let me find something that I can make him do over. But the verse, with him being heavy with his breath control and everything, it came out so perfect. And he's like, yo, you like it? I was like, dude, this is the hottest shit. He said, see, I told you I wrote the hottest shit ever to your beat. And, the song ended up getting, quotable and everything else, but we couldn't get the sample cleared. That's how Domingo got on the album. But everyone who had it, like, I remember the writers from the source, they told me like, yo, the song is dope, but what put the cherry on top was your beat. And I was like, wow, another quotable. This is a dope feeling. So that right there, that's like a memory I will never forget with Pun. because it's like, yo, him as an artist, like he's unique. Like in the 90s, there was so many unique artists, and it's like I look, and there's so much, and there's so many dudes who were dope, and none of them were the same. And for him to be the heavy guy and to have the breath control he had, and be able to rhyme and tap dance on the beat and have the flow, he was just utterly amazing. The first time when Busta came to my house, like I always liked Busta since Leaders of the New School, and this is like I had about 3 or 4 beats out. Like I think we did the Brand Nubian record and he did the hook, and he came through because he's like, yo, I need some beats for my album. And he came in with this great record with a green and black cover. He's like, yo, this is my first single right here. And I played it and I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous, because it's not even, if you listen to that Galt McDermott sample, it's not even orthodox with the 1-2 snare, 1-2 snare. Like it has swing to it. And this is what I tell people now about doing hip hop. Like, yo, y'all don't put no swing in your music. And when I heard that, and it's like, he's gonna kill us, because he has flow. And he's the master of manipulating the song. And it's like, me hearing that, it left me stuck where it's like, I didn't know what to do, how I'm approach it, what I'm gonna give him. And it's like, I was just like, I just left it at that. Like he would ask me, like, yo, you come up with anything? I'd be like, nah. And the other person was definitely Redman for the first few years, because he's another animated person. And it's like, seeing the game now and looking backwards, I was like, dude, I could have did this with my eyes closed, you know? But it's just so, when you look at it, like hearing what they done before, I would be like, yo, I need something super incredible to come out. And then you know what Eric was giving him is dope, because when Redman and Busta get on the track, it's like watching a movie if you close your eyes, because it's like you hear how they emphasize certain words, how they cadence, and it's like how they flow, and like they singing. It's just amazing. It's like, I was like, yo, these 2 dudes that to me were always special dudes, aside from the other 60 rappers that was out. I can't say that. Like, I'm very picky when it comes to things. So dudes, even if a person was like, yo, send me some beats, I would send them 3. They'd be like, yo, you sent me 3 beats. I'm like, I know. If you got 3, that means if you heard the first one, you're not tired of the first one, by the time you got to the last one, you'll be like, all right, let me go back to the first, and you know, that would be it. But to me, I always look, because coming in the game quickly and rising to a certain set where it's like, all right, I gotta work with this person, I gotta come with something different for him, and I gotta come with something different for him. It's real hard to kind of get rattled. Like I got rattled only, like I said, by a couple of people, and 2 of them was Busta and Redman. And the first one too was Biggie at first. But he stayed persistent, like, yo, you know, I need some beats. He even called my boy Finesse. Like, yo, tell this nigga to call me, I need some beats. And it's like, I took my homeboy there, Easy LP, and he ended up getting the placement. He did get money for them, but I never let up. You know, I stayed with what he said. He's like, yo, you know, just keep hitting me. Like, yo, you got it. You just got to make me something I can make. Yeah. And when you hear great artists, it's like, and you understand it, like being in that time, when you look at all these records that came from that time, there's so many artists that was just great. Nobody worrying about, I got bars. Yo, did you hear me say this? They was like, nah, man, Flex gonna play this in the tunnel. He gonna play it like 20 times. Because people were about the entertainment of people. Like, I want you to spend your money, so I'm gonna give you something to spend your money on. And that's what it was. It's funny because it's not even a hip hop record. It's faith record, I love you. I hear that wherever I go. And to look at it, like I say, I no longer classify myself as a hip hop producer. Even talking to one of my homies yesterday, because he's like, yo, you did a lot of R&B records that same year. And I was like, yeah, you know, because it's like, I believe when you grow, you progress. And one of the dudes that kind of inspired me to do that was watching Pharrell grow. From doing all these rap songs and then going and doing, you know, R&B joints. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. And then it's ironic that I get a chance to work with Babyface, and I walk in the studio and he's right there. Him and my boy Duro. All right, I could say this. It probably was his first feature. Yes You May remix with Lord Finesse. And Finesse is, if you took the grandmaster of DJ, like from DJs, and you put it to the MCs, Finesse is like the grandmaster of MCs. And Ella's like, yo, I'm gonna kill him on this. Cause back then, you know, hip hop is very, how can I say it? It's very competitive. And it's like, it wasn't like the bars. Like I said, it's how you say it, how you flow, how you put everything together. And he just listened to Ness rhyme. He's like, all right. And that's all right. Ness is like, all right, go ahead, you know. I think I remember going to say, you know, spit your verse. And then it's like, then came his first lines, you know, everywhere I go, brothers know my fucking name. I'm flooring niggas and I only wear a buck and change. And right there, to me, in my opinion, I think LP was there too. I was like, he ain't do a record yet, but he arrived. Like, he's rhyming like no other. When Nas said before, like, he was intimidated about. At first, I didn't believe it, but then when I look at it, because I know him, and I'm like, dude, you a dangerous dude. Because it's funny, when we did the first album, Jay-Z's on the record before he's who he is, you know, and it's funny. So when people be like, yo, what did some of the records you produced first? That's one of them. With him, Jay-Z, Finesse, and the Granddaddy IU. Well, I think, and this is not a difference, I would say more or less similarities. Because even hearing Jay he's nice, but he's also humble. But he's also on another note where he's cocky. So when you have these things, Nas is humble, but he's gonna let you know in his rhymes like how nice he is. And Big is the same way. Big, you know, at the end of his album, he's like, you know, they put in a movie when he said that, you know, I'm the greatest. And it's like, after when we did the last song, he was still saying that. And even the time we was in the studio and he was playing Hypnotize, you know, because I remember that day very well, you know? So I don't say similarities. With them three, I say it's similarities, which is the greatness. And it's like all the great dudes I've seen, it's like they have that about them. Like Pum was incredibly cocky, but he was very humble. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and I noticed, because the same thing, like those three we named, being in the studio doing Terror Squad album, his verses wasn't sitting right. And I was like, yo, we got to get Pun here so he could do the vocals over. And they're like, yo, he's not going to do it. And it's me and Doro sitting at the console. And then about 2 o'clock in the morning, Pun walks in with his family. Redoes the verse the way it needs to be done, and that was that. So the ones who are great are the ones who will never give you a problem doing anything I see. They don't even be like, yo, this is how, these dudes, it's like they listen, they take that because they have their own idea, because they want to see what you think and they want you to make sure that they got the best record possible. All right, the one that surprised me, it surprised me, it didn't surprise everybody else, was Rob's song, Whoa. Because everybody who heard this, like, oh, this is going to be incredible. And I'm listening because I did it, and I'm seeing everything done vocal-wise, and I'm like, yeah, it's cool, it's dope though, you know? But I'm not like, oh, this is going to be, Flex is going to drop 1,000 bombs to this, and I'm like, okay, we just see what happens. You know, it's been a few songs that's like that, you know? Because I look, even with Joe's song, you know, Live My Lifestyle, that was another song, because my boy LV was DJing for Joe. And I think Joe did the record at Flex Car Show first, and it's like, just on the way it sounded. You know, he was telling me about it and telling me how the car show went, and it's like, I would see, you know, even visiting people, friends, and it's like, you walk in and it's like females are singing a song, and you're like, wait a minute, this is a hard record. Y'all not supposed to sing this. But it's catchy, and it's like, also, I believe, I'm not too mistaken, but I do remember I think that they were saying that they was going to drop that as a leak or something like that. And they was like, no, we're not going with that. That's the B-side. We got to go with the A-side, which is, I think, it was the We Thuggin'. It did well. I'm going to say this. The record did well, and it's like it's a hip-hop anthem for the true hip-hoppers. But I thought it would be more than that, and that was Time's Up. Because looking at it, for people who are true to hip-hop, since 94, it's transcended X amount of generations. It's even been a song that Puffy was championing. You know what I'm saying? So when you look at it, how Puff did special delivery, I felt he would do that. And it's like, I always told O is a prophet. OC never gets his credit he deserves an MC, but he's a prophet and he prophesizes things. Everything he said in that record, it was basically through the years, just happening year after year. You know? And that's probably it. Cause some of the other songs, I thought a lot of songs were good, but then I had some songs that was great. And you know, as time went on, you start learning what's going to be what. Like you could feel it. Like after I seen Rob record take off, I knew like, okay, if I get something with that intensity again, it's going to take off with the right artist. People fuck with it, but it's not like, you know, it's not a commercial record. Even though it could have easily been commercial because of the way hip hop is now, but I felt that he always has that. It happened for him, but it happened with a later record that Beatminers did, which is Dangerous. You see what I'm saying? But I've always seen and told him like, yo, you have that. You have great writing ability. If this is basketball, you have good court vision. You know, like some MCs, they don't make it to where they need to be, but it's not their fault. Most times it's because of the labels, and it's like how the labels put them out. And it's like, I always felt that it's like he's supposed to be there because all the dudes that won, they respect him. I wasn't there, but it felt like being in the studio with them. When we did the record, it was pretty like, oh man, you know, oh, this is happening. Because when he picked them, when G-Rap picked the beat, he said, yo, I'm doing this with Nas. Next thing you know, they're like, yo, we gotta go away to Bearsville and do the song. So when we did the song, it was mainly just me, G, and Nas in the studio. And it's like the same thing I told you about how to take direction and how they interact with you. And it's like, I was like, yo, I noticed after Biggie, like all the great ones, this is what they do. They want to know what it is, like how it could be the best that it could be. And we don't have that time now. I don't think a lot of dudes really be in the studio with the artists. Maybe Kendrick and them, and you know, he's an incredible talent, you know. And Drake is in the studio with 40. You know, it's a lot of great people, but I think for those dudes like that, because they don't just have one type of song, one style. You know, J. Cole, Kendrick, and Drake, that's the new big three. You know, and it's like, it's good seeing that because it's like, they keep it true and they'll dance on the mic if you need them to. Where it's like, oh, you got some money up for that? Let's dance, you know? So everybody can't do that, but it's like they embody all the things that it takes to be a great hip hop artist. And I think that's dope. We need more of that. For one, I was invited in, but the paperwork could never meet the both sides to agree on. And you know, I think that was because Puff wasn't really hands-on. I don't even think he really knew what was going on. But even with being there, it's like, I think I was really there since 97 with Biggie. Cause like I said, from Big, I met D.I.T.C, and all the MCs they had on their label, I knew. I knew Rob, I knew Mace, you know, I knew Yogi in them, which was, Yogi was a producer. To me, what worked for me in the industry was the fact that I knew everybody even without a record deal. Because we was all connected, like, you know, Final Destination, you know, a line of, you know, and everybody walking that line of crossing that path. I wish it could be more creative. And, you know, to understand sampling is like to understand the DJs in the park jams. So when we wanted to be DJs, we knew that like, yo, I gotta have a record that nobody knows that I can use for me. When you sample now, everyone doesn't put the same TLC in it. And it's like, everyone doesn't have the ears of like a Kamal the Abstract. Everyone's not trying to make every record different from the last one. If anyone can follow a lot of records I did, they all sound different because it's always, every time when you do something and it's new, it adds on to it. So that means if we constructing a skyscraper calling it hip hop, the more we all add a different brick, the higher it goes. But if we all add the same thing, it stays on the same level. And for me, I love it because a lot of these records that I did are a lot of today's MC's favorite, a lot of the past MC's favorite, and it's been admired also by my peers as well as people. And when you do that, it's like we all, it's like having a luncheon. Like walking in the studio and seeing like 10 producers, y'all all respect each other. It's the same thing as before, It's like, yo, what do you have and what are you doing next? And this thing that you just did, it's like, it was crazy. I can remember even, I know we was in Battery, and this is a time when Tribe was working on the album with Dilla. Because I remember seeing Dilla in a record convention. And it's like, he's an incredible talent too. The one thing I tell people even now about him, I'd be like, yo, he didn't even really plant his feet yet where he was going. Because if you look at his big records, because hip hop is a multi-million billion dollar industry, and he's had some of those monsters. So if you're talking about his beat tapes like that, imagine what he would have finished up and what he would have presented to even today's artists. So we could say a lot of things, but he didn't get the way he was going yet. And it's like we all judging him if it's good or bad, or it's like it's saying whatever. But I wish he was here today so he could show people, because he's like a part 2 of Q-Tip. And it's funny because they say he admired Q-Tip, like he marveled and did everything behind him. So when you have greatness and that follows greatness, this is how we make hip hop last. Because we all trying to put some trying to add to a floor to make it bigger, make it better. Because if not, and we'll feel like it is now. Like people are like, oh, it ain't been no #1 records. We had #1 records in hip hop forever. But it's like, if there's none now, when you look at it, are there monsters coming out that the radio was like, oh, this gotta be played 1,000,000 times a day? Are we bickering with how spacious the room has become, even when you have like Lil Baby and like the Baby? Some of them is phenomenal rappers, but choose to do something else. So when I see that, I'm like, yo, they have what you're looking for, but they just have a style that they're doing now. You got the girls who are doing things. You got Cardi B. You got what's homegirl name again? Scarlett. And you have what's this girl name again? Ice Spice, all from the Bronx. So instead of tearing them down, can we build that up and maybe throw something else to somebody else from the Bronx, or give somebody advice or show them something that they could do? Because when you look at it, the only thing it does is create a war between people. Oh, you don't like my shit, I don't like you either. I don't like well-used samples, first of all. So even the fact of finding a sample that nobody used, and then you find out nobody ever used or touched it, a virgin record, that's the greatest feel. That's like, we call it finding the Holy Grail. And then when it's so dope that no one's ever, because like, we used to go to these things called record conventions, and it's like, everyone be looking for a new Holy Grail, something that no one has. That's the greatest feeling ever, because you might make a record that people are only going to want to talk about. This is why you have these people who make these things where it's like, oh, this is the sample from this time. I've always said those people and people who make these sample compilations of people who can't produce, and they never got the shot to have a record, because if you did, you would know that in hip hop, it's an unwritten rule. They're like, yo, you don't snitch on samples. And it's like, when you got people doing it, trying to make money from it, you probably create more enemies than you are people who like you. It would be cool, like if I know you and I'm like, yo, you know what? Oh, this is what such and such used for this record. And you're not going to tell nobody. If you find it, you find it. You're not going to tell a person like, yo, I just found this. Because this is where the community get kind of messed up, and everyone's like, it's not no camaraderie no more like it was. It's early when we all super broke. And I did a song for Red Hot Lover Tone called For My Niggas with Biggie, Tone, M.O.P., Akinelli, and Prince from Organized. And, it was another rapper in there, I'm not going to blow his name up, but he made a line and put Biggie name in it. And then Akinyele starts joking at Big like, yo, that's your man? I don't know, dude, what you talking about? That's what Biggie says. He's like, that's your man, he just said it. And it's like, you know, Big was getting steamed. And, you know, it came to the point where it's like, we're in the next day and homie isn't there. And it's like, you know, they would be like, such and such on line 1 for Biggie. And it's like, we was just, yo, they was just tearing Big up, pause, you know what I'm saying? And he's like, yo, y'all niggas play too much. Fast forward later in the day, Big goes to Tone and be like, look, if he on this, I ain't on there. You could take me off, I don't care. Cause he was catching so much flack. You know, it got to a point where a dude just so cool, you got him to a boiling point. And it's like, it was some of us, but it was mainly Akinyele. And it's like, when you know, they say when it's like, when you starting off, that's the most fun you have. And that session, those 3 days in the session was the illest time ever, because I think we laughed more than we did anything else. Well, being in that era is crazy, because even when you look at people like Beanie Siegel is a monster. And it's like, I remember hearing him, and it's like, I was blessed to be put in the studio with him first also. But looking at it, like, you have to have, first thing you gotta have is like, you gotta have the wit as an MC. You gotta have the flow. You gotta be able to tell stories. It's not just bars. We in a time where everybody think I got bars, so I'm good. You know, and we always said this before. It's not what you say, it's how you say what you say. And it's like, if you're not saying it the correct way, because look, rap, the word rap really comes from like singing. You know, oh, he rapping along with it. And it's like, so when you hear it, it's like, you can hear the, you know, the melody and stuff going. It's like, that's what rapping really is. Some people, what they're doing today is not rapping. They're just, and that's all it is. Because if it's rapping, you can hear people singing your raps. When you hear Mobb Deep Shook ones, it's like, you can, that's a what we call a boy-girl record. The females can sing along to it, but they're not rapping it and being all hard and saying the most. Nah, it's like, you have to make it as a song that people like. That's how you get the people who aren't really into rap, hip hop, you know? What's our 3 biggest records right now? What's our 3 most popular records in the game? What's our 3 most impactful records in the game? What's our 3 game-changing records in the game? See, the question you said, it's a good question, but we can't have this unless we have a talk about what's there that's taking over. So I would say the last person I thought that was incredible probably is somebody like 40. You know, I could go and it's like, I could say Metro Boomin, you know, but you know, for me to say somebody like those guys, people would be like, yo man, how you gonna say them? They whack, and they talk a whole bunch of other shit, but they doing their thing. You know what I'm saying? So you can't, I can't say that because it's public opinion for you that it's not me. It's like, I respect them for what they do. Like 40 is my boy. I haven't met Metro yet, but it's like, I respect him for what he's doing. Like, he's on this Grizzly doing his thing. And there's quite a few others that's probably doing the same thing, you know? But until we can, that's one thing I say we have to get rid of, because it's like, you can't be the top unless you're checking all the boxes. You got hit records, you got classic records, you know what I'm saying? Your beats is incredible, and you know, a bunch of other things. So when people talk about the best and all this other stuff, and you only do one thing, what you good at? Nothing? So we need to stop handing those awards out and just give them the nothing award. You know, that's like everybody in the 90s and early 2000s, right?
But you
and it starts with Primo, because you like, yo, you feel like a boxing match, like, oh, Primo on here? Oh, I gotta get ready. I need to get one up on Primo. Even though you're not going to do it, but you at least want to be talked about in good company. Then it's like, you look at it when you move forward, you got like Just Blaze, you got Bank, you got Knots, you got High Tech still, you know, you got Kanye. There's so many, because it's like, I don't think a lot of us really like, oh, he's on here, I gotta go head up with him. Nah, dude, it's like about 25 other people that's going to put you in your place, where it's like, you got to box them out to get that placement, so you can consider like, yo, I got a hot record. So when it was good competition, that was it. But I think for me, I felt better hearing those names on the album because we all do different things than to say like, yo, you know, it's competitive like that. Cause it's like, nah, you know, all right, then this the album to be on. When you look at it, cause now a person can't tell me like, yo, I got this one on my album, that on my album, and it's like, it's gonna be the two things. What we doing? We doing a trap album, a drill album, or underground album? What we doing? Are we doing a global album where it's like, oh, you got Pharrell and Tim on there? Oh, this gonna be something. And you get one from Storch? All right, that's the single, so let me do what I do. You know, a lane where you fit in, and it's like, I think in those days, like you talking about, I think everybody, they rocked in their lane. If you got a single, you got a single. But if you got a hot record that can be in the street, you got one of those. Whatever you do, you was great at it, and that's what made those times amazing. So it's hard to be like, yo, you know, oh, you on here? Nah, you know they getting a Primo beat, so you know what Primo gonna do. That's what I say. So this what makes those times dope for a consumer, because a lot of these dudes is probably your favorite producer. You're like, wow, this was amazing. And then it's a bonus when whoever else come on the album you get.